So like, and today it's a very privileged moment for me. لأنه this guy, and I'm speaking almost in English and Arabic because I'm a bit emotional about this. This guy is one of the guys that we used to watch when we were like 15, and he was taking the stage and living the dream by taking electric guitar and shredding on it. And I think first time I saw you in concert, Samir, was playing Vengeance by Yngwie Malmsteen. I think that was one of the pinnacle moments of this. That was like maybe 20 years ago or something like that. That was something ago. So tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do?
Well, Toufic, first, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you. My name is Samir. I'm a guitar teacher and a guitarist. I live in France, and I've been living mainly from teaching guitar. So this is my job. This is also my passion, and I'm really happy to be able to do that. You can find my lessons online, and we're gonna be talking more about that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'll make sure to put all the links.
Okay. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how does a Lebanese guy in a country where access to foreign culture was somewhat limited. How do you evolve into what you wanted to evolve into, especially in a country where I assume you had the same parents I have? You're either a doctor, lawyer, or engineer, and everything else is just a waste of time. So how was the journey starting up?
Well, this is true, actually. This is true, especially in the 90s, there wasn't enough access, especially in Lebanon, to this kind of music. I think I was passionate about music. I wanted so much to do that. So, I did my best to try to learn, try to get the information. It was a long way, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what to do, try to figure out how to hold a pick or how to plug a guitar and how it works, So it was a lot of time spent just trying to figure this out. And I think it's part of the reasons why I'm now passionate about teaching people to play guitar and help them, not waste time and find what to do. So it was a long way, but I think, when you're passionate about something and you're determined, so you just don't quit and keep on going on, and so I was lucky to do that.
Yeah, great. You went through some conservatory studies?
Yeah, actually, yes. I started playing piano. I discovered that my sister had a little Casio keyboard in her drawer.
Oh, Casio, man, that's a brand. That's we're old.
And the very old model. Actually, it was a small model. Yeah. And I was maybe like 6, and I found a passion about listening to a melody and trying to find it on the keyboard. And I was very interested in music. And then I discovered electric guitar. I saw it on TV, and I got very interested in guitar music. Guitar-driven music. So I switched to guitar, and then I learned by myself. I took some lessons with a teacher, but it didn't last long. I was lucky to meet 2 persons in Tripoli who was also interested in guitar. So we started, playing together. They also showed me some chords and stuff. But it was mainly like personal effort, listening to music, on a cassette and trying to find it by ear on guitar. It took me years, And then after this, I was playing in a band and stuff, and I went to the conservatoire. Actually, it's true, in Tripoli, and I learned classical guitar. Actually, I went to the conservatory because I wanted to learn musical composition, actually. But it turned out that I had to also study an instrument. So I ended up studying classical guitar, which I also actually fell in love with. And so I did a journey in the conservatory where I learned to read the music, I learned music theory, harmony, composition, and that was really, really helpful for me. And it was also a dream come true for me to be able to learn all that.
Of course. I just have to touch on something. You said something, you used to listen to something on the cassette and then try to figure it out. This is for all of the people out there that are now, like, basically you put a clip on YouTube and then you put on 0.5 speed and then you look note by note what the player is playing. We didn't have that at that time. you put the cassette, you put your guitar, and you sound really weird, and it was really frustrating. And it took you maybe half a day to decipher a 4-chord song with a pentatonic solo, like something like the most basic.
Absolutely.
It could take you half a day
Absolutely.
it could take you half a day for something that now you can access in less than 2 minutes on a decent video. So these were the nice periods.
Yeah.
Samir, regarding the instrument, I think we all have this symbiotic relationship with the guitars. I mean, I remember that guitar for me, for example, was a kind of a, let's say, the healthy hobby to have. Like we, let's not forget, we grew up in a country where it was very easy to get off the road, right? And to start doing stupid things. Like it was very easy. At that point, it was like the chaos for dummies, the childhood we had. If any idea could turn into a disaster if we really let imagination. And guitar came in and is like, no, every free time I have, and I had at that point, I remember I used to spend it on the instrument. And I had this classical guitar from Russia where, you know, the distance between the strings and the neck was like half an inch. so
I had a guitar like this one too.
I think you all had these guitars because we couldn't afford the guitar, and it was like $30, and you can play, and whenever you're playing, like it was like a workout session for your hands every time you're playing. What was the pinnacle moment where you're like, okay, this is like, that's the style I'm gonna go into? Is there a band? Is there a performance? Is there a concert you went to? Is there a concert you saw? Was there a person in your life that was just this influence on, okay, this is it? Because all big
Well,
artists say it was Hendrix, it was Jimmy Page, etc. But what about you?
actually, I was drawn to electric guitar since I was very, very, very young. Well, actually, my older brother, he was the one who brought cassettes and recording to our house.
Yeah.
And I was very drawn to electric guitar, but actually I didn't know it was electric guitar, which is actually pretty stupid. But
We thought it was the synthesizer. I thought it was the
exactly,
synthesizer.
exactly. So I loved the solo, the ending solo on Scorpion is Still Loving You. You know, there at the
Yeah.
end of the song, there's this great solo,
Yeah.
and I really loved it when I was a little kid, and I asked my brother to play it, but I wasn't sure it was electric guitar. Actually, I didn't know about electric guitar. Maybe I was 5 or something. So I think I was always drawn to that. But what happened is that when I grew a little bit older, I was listening to more rock music and, you know, guitar-driven music.
Yeah.
So I always loved the sound of electric guitar. So I think it comes from there, you know, listening to Scorpions, listening also to the introduction of Money for Nothing,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Dire Straits.
Of course.
This introduction always drove me crazy, you know, and I think, you know, that electric guitar started there. And at some point, I was listening, you know, to Scorpions, Dire Straits, stuff like that. What was available actually from my brother Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
and I had this cousin who that I saw just once in my life,
Yeah.
who actually at some point dropped at Tripoli and came to my house. And I was young, I was maybe like 10 or something.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, you listen to Scorpions and these stuff. You have to check out Metallica and Nirvana
And there you
Guns
go.
N' Roses." You know, I
And then
never heard of them before, and I said, "Yeah, sure." You know, so
yeah.
the next day I was at the record store. I bought these albums, and I was crazy about it. You know, so it was clear for me that this is what I wanted to do. You know.
Yeah, well, I think we all went through this, man. I mean, I remember
Yes, sir.
at first I started like any person my generation, 10, 12, you just watch MTV on television, right? Whenever it was available, and those clips. And it was first it was for me like more hip hop type of music, but then there was this moment where Eddie Van Halen went with, I didn't know who Eddie Van Halen was, and he went with Michael Jackson on one of the on Beat It, and there was this wicked
Crazy solo.
solo in Beat It, right? And so I was a Michael Jackson fan, and you know, all the hip hop kind of stuff. And then I was like, wow, what is that? And so I used to listen to it, and then and then one thing led to another. Michael Jackson started playing with other guitar players, like Slash, like and so
Jennifer Batten also, who was
yeah, from Guns
can't
N'
remember the name of the record, but she's an amazing guitarist.
Absolutely, and so this way it was like I kind of was introduced to electric guitar, and then I think where there was a pivot in my head about musicology, if you want, was Queen. When I heard Queen for the first time, this is the only band maybe in the world that on one album you cover maybe 6 styles, and you go through first song and you say, okay, I like this band, and then they're playing, and they're playing rock, and then after that they're playing something more like hip hop, or they're playing country music, like, and you're like, okay, what? And that's the band that for me arguably provided the most what the fuck moments, like that every time you put on a record it's like, what the fuck is this, like, and
They're
then
very inspiring indeed.
yeah, and that was really the introduction. And then afterwards, of course, we used to go and see you in Beit El Fan, in the house of art, if you want to translate it. That was a pinnacle moment and pinnacle
It
place.
was a great place, actually. I still have a lot of good memories, from
Yeah.
rehearsing there, playing concerts there, and also seeing concerts there. It was an amazing place, actually. I'm still surprised, about that. It's almost like a secret place, It was like this.
Nobody knows
house,
about it. I asked
Exactly.
20-year-olds right now. I asked 20-year-olds right now in Tripoli. They don't know about it. Like, what?
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's a beautiful place, and it was an amazing opportunity, for all the musicians to be able to play there and rehearse. Yeah, it's such a great place.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it, how we got introduced to it. And then first electric guitar, then it was, we thought we knew something, and then we discovered the humbucker, and then I mean we were like experimenting with the guitars, and then at what point you start, okay, so should I put the wah-wah pedal before the distortion or after the distortion, and then everybody became an expert, and the cool kid from the block would come and say, hey, try to do this, I remember seeing.
To me, that came much later, actually. Like, I spent years just trying to, to figure out how to play, how to do up and down picking or play chords, Yeah, I worked a lot later, on the sound and how, to use the amp and all these things, but it took years just to figure out how to do something that sounds good.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's we didn't have like that. That's what's amazing about this, is that today, I mean, if I had you, I'm sure that if you had YouTube back then, you it would have been like, okay, easy, put you look up a song, you put it on YouTube, you put it slow motion, and then you watch the hands, and then you
absolutely. Actually, I'm still amazed, today I use it every day, and of course I show my students that they can slow the videos on YouTube, and all the things they can do. And actually they don't use it as much as they could, but of course it's because they already have a teacher and they've got a lot of online content that they can use. But of course a lot of them and a lot of people I know for sure use it. But I mean, yeah, when at some point in the 90s, where internet was more accessible, and I have a friend who brought me tablatures, actual tablatures. It was, like, it was such a revelation. It was amazing. So yeah, just having tablature. I'm not saying YouTube or all the tabs or Guitar Pro and all these things, of course. But in the same time, there is the fact to sit down and try to figure out things by ear is also a very, very good exercise. So I still try to do it today, because of course my students, even if I don't send them the tabs, which I do because it's my job, they can always go and find it somewhere online, or just type it on YouTube and find 10 videos of people, giving lessons how to play the song. I try to encourage them. Exactly, to find it by ear, to do this part of the job at least a little, because it's also a good job. It teaches you a lot of things.
Yeah, I think having a musical ear is something that you learn, and that you learn how to learn, if you want. Like, I think
it's like an instrument, it's something that you learn, that you mostly need to practice, actually. And
I started on drums. I mean, before even playing the guitar, all my cousins bought guitars and basses, and then we needed to form like a band, and they needed a drummer. And I started on a drum, but I didn't have a drum. So it was my mother's casseroles and some cushions and whatever, like whatever it is that I could put on to just make a beat at home and figure something out, right? And then I would go to Beit al-Fan they had a drum there, and then I would play, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like at home. Well, yeah, because the casserole that you put doesn't sound.
You couldn't find the right feel and dynamics on the drums compared to percussions.
Absolutely. And then at some point, I think I borrowed the drums from a friend, and then I borrowed like only the snares and the hi-hat, and I was at home, and then my mother said, okay, either you or the drums, can't be both.
Too noisy.
Right? Yeah. And so we threw away the drums and they came back to guitar. And so I think getting this tempo discipline when you're playing drums, you know, sticking to the same tempo, because you are the metronome of the band.
Absolutely.
At some point, I think that helped a lot. How are you coping with all the situation, the COVID-19 in France, and with all of this regarding with your business, your students, your family, of course?
Yeah, well, actually, what the biggest thing is that all my students who I've got here, the students I've got in Montpellier, we do physical lessons, one-on-one, physical lessons. They were all transferred, online. So, it took some time, they had a certain, work time schedule, and, we had our habits, the way we were doing things. So it took some time. Also, it took them some time to realize that it has to be done now online. It's not going to end in 1 week. Actually, I told them that physical lessons 1 week before being confined at home. I told them that I have to stop the lessons at home. We have to do them online. So they kind of waited actually a little bit because they thought it's gonna end very quickly, but they quickly realized that this is something that not gonna last long. So they started doing the lessons online, and now it's been a month, and I think we're all getting used to it. But I was used to doing lessons online, but now also used to giving my Montpellier students also teaching them online.
Yeah.
So it took some time, to put this in place, to make it work. It was, to get them used at it. But I mean, now it's fine. It's just working. Like I've got my regular students weekly. We changed some, schedules, and also I try to show them that when you're doing the lessons online, you can do it differently for many reasons. And some of them. Some of the changes is very efficient actually, so they're getting used to it, and yeah, that's
Well, that's very interesting to hear, because I was discussing it with the band with whom we play, and we're trying to come up with some stuff like to do online and maybe do a kind of montage of songs, and so those kind of things. And then I think what we're missing the most, I don't know if you have the same story with your students, I think we miss the camaraderie, like when you're sitting in the same room and you feel like you're in a band or something, right? You know what I mean? But when you're behind the screen, you lose this kind of band type of vibe, like you feel, I think what forms a band is the synergy of people. And so when you have a one-to-one student, you're like, you are exchanging and you are teaching the person how to play, but I think there's this camaraderie. And when you play chords for them to solo on, they instantly feel like in a band when you're just in front of them, right? And the camera is on the other side. Now everybody's on one side of the camera, and I think that's the shift that people need to.
Well, yes, it is true. When you're doing, usually a big difference, at least from a teacher's point of view, when you're teaching online, it's very, it's effective, but it's also a lot of work, the fact of, having the camera on your guitar, it's just gonna make you play all the time, So sometimes, I'm used to it, it's important just to pull back the camera and talk to your student, and, try to connect also like the way you would do face to face. But also what I felt, I think at least some of my students felt the same, is that, I didn't see them for a week, and like habits changed, and I think everyone was kind of shocked. by the news, and by
Yeah, yeah,
what's
of
going
course,
on.
of
So
course.
we were really happy, to be able at least to connect again and see each other, even if it was, on a
Yeah,
screen. We were happy to see each other,
yeah,
and ended up doing the same thing we would do face to face.
yeah,
And of course, I mean, today the fact that we are all confined and you just we are all at home. It's a real pleasure to connect with my students and see them. I think for all of us, it's it just makes us feel that it's everything's okay, or at least normal.
Well, I think that's what everybody's trying to convince themselves is. I think we were talking about it with a friend of mine the other day, and she was basically saying, okay, which film to watch on Netflix or something, and I said, "Look," but she said, basically, I think we all need this kind of moment where some action or movie star saves the world, and so we need this good news of because we're not getting any news from TV, from the news, because people just genuinely don't know. But when you're watching an episode on Netflix, or when you're watching a series and it comes to the end where, okay, we defeated the virus and humanity is saved and now we can all go back to our lives, and it gives you kind of this hope. I think everybody's looking into this.
Well, guitar is also a superhero. When you just play,
Absolutely.
feel some progress,
Absolutely, man.
hopefully it gives you the same feeling.
Man, when you put a guitar in your hand, you all need to learn 4 or 5 chords, and then you can play maybe 5, 6 songs, and then you instantly look cool. Like, you take a guitar and you put it in somebody's hands, and they instantly look cool. That's what I love about the instrument. The
Well,
instrument.
this is true. This is true. It always makes you feel good. It gives you some good vibes,
Yeah,
and it's a pleasure to hear or to play music. So yeah, I think it was a good thing, for my in this situation especially, to be able to connect again with my students, and for my students to connect again with me, and to be able to play and do something different, from working at home.
yeah,
And I think it was a good thing, and this is the reason I think also all my students are kept on doing guitar and making
yeah,
online
yeah,
taking online lessons,
yeah.
because it's fun, and just gives you good vibes amidst this situation.
Yeah. Listen, I always felt that there's two schools, if you want, for learning an instrument. There's school number one is, I want to become a musician, right? And I would like to pursue either a career, or I discovered a unknown talent that I had, and I just played. Like, I'll compare it to this. It's like you want your son to be an engineer someday, and at the age of 14, he picks up the guitar, and at the age of 17, he already wrote 60 songs, right? And so, right, and so you're like, my life is over. Why is he picking up the guitar? And no, I want him to. And so that would be number one. Number two is, to me, the instrument has been more like a therapy, right? And it was more like a way of connecting to something else, and more of a creation of something else. I mean, guitar at some point in my life brought me out of depression. It is an expensive hobby, because obviously you have to buy some stuff, but then it taught me
Yeah,
also.
especially if you want to buy the stuff you buy.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then
No, I'm
again,
just kidding.
I turned it into a sort of a business that sponsors it, right? So I have a reverb shop right now, where I put a bunch of stuff that I have, and basically I came to the conclusion that, okay, if I want to buy a new guitar, maybe I have to get an old one another home, right? And so basically it finances itself. It doesn't make me money, but as I said, it's an expensive hobby. So if it just finances itself by selling this, by selling that, by trying different pedals. I mean, it's like a geeky way of doing it for cheap, if you want to, if I can say it like this. But what is the advice that you would give parents that sometimes will struggle with the fact that their kid is really talented, and they come and they say, I want to. And I would say, especially like Middle Eastern parents, if I have to say, where the kid you can discover real talent, and there's really a point where now you can work not only in just because our parents see you with a cigarette, see you with long hair, with a guitar, and that's it. You're a drug dealer, right? I mean, but they don't understand that you can be a very crafted sound engineer in a theater.
Sure.
You can be a very crafted sound engineer on the radio. You can be a luthier. You can open your guitar shop. You see what I mean? So there are many ways you can do this. What is the advice you would give parents from what you've experienced maybe with your parents and your environment? What is the advice that you would give parents to live with the fact and to kind of encourage this?
Well, actually, you kind of mentioned you already made a point about all the jobs you can have, you know, in music. So the problem is, and I don't think it's only from in the Middle East. Well, maybe it's worse in the Middle East. I'm sorry to say that. I mean, of course, especially, I mean, when we were there at the time. But it's probably one of the worst things I experienced about, you know, wanting to be a musician is people thinking, parents, and it's actually not only parents, it's everyone, is that you can't, you know, live from music, or that, you know, if you just play music, you're.
I'll talk about my parents. I'll talk about my parents. Get a degree and then learn the guitar. Go to school first. Go to school first and then get the guitar. Go to university first and then, you see what I mean? So that's.
I've heard that before. I promise you, I've heard it
We've
before.
all heard it. We have,
and actually doesn't work like this, because you want, it's, you know, you want to learn music early as possible, and mostly when you want to learn it, you know, it's something, it's a you know, it takes time to learn and master an instrument. But the thing is that I think there's two things. The first thing is we have to understand that you can live out of music. If you want to play an instrument or be a musician, it doesn't mean that you want to become Michael Jackson. This is something, or Van Halen or Guns N' Roses. Nothing will guarantee that you're going to become a rock star. But being a rock star is not a job. You know, you can get a job from music. You can be a music teacher. You can be a sound engineer, or recording. There's so many things that you can do out of music, you know, and you still, you know, working in your field. So this is something important to know, that there is, if you have a friend or a child or someone who wants to, you know, who's got a passion for music, and I don't want to talk about talent, because this is something else. You do not need necessarily a massive talent, you know, to be a musician. You know, you just, you know, you want to study, practice, learn things, right? If you love it, you know, you would do it right. You know, you don't need to be a talent. So this is the first thing, is to, you know, it's just a job, or it's something that, like anything else, where you can learn it and teach it, or find a job and live out of it. So, and this is already something which is cool. And the second thing, I think, is that if you've got a child, if your son want to learn an instrument, it doesn't mean that, you know, he's gonna miss his studies, or he's, like, you know, ruining his future. Actually, on the contrary, people who learn an instrument, they actually learn a lot of things while learning the instrument, you know. You know, I think you already had this experience, you know, when you get the guitar the first time, or at least if you look at a guitar, it's just a piece of wood with strings on it, and you try to make a sound, it just doesn't sound like anything. But by practicing, you get these amazing results, which becomes the music. Absolutely. And it's an amazing lesson, actually, in how, you know, when you put the right work, you get amazing results. So.
Absolutely. Even scales. I mean, scales, I remember learning the scales through the math courses that we had in school. Because, I mean, every musician in history was somewhat a mathematician or physicist, right?
I
remember. No, really. But I mean, I broke down, for example, some scales with the suits, the numeric.
This is true. This is true.
There is this, suits, right? And for example, also when we studied sound at school in physics, it was also interesting to, like, the microphone, the reception of the sound, the magnets, the coils behind the microphone. So that got me more interested into the instrument, right? So I think what you're saying makes complete sense. And so, on the other hand, now that you've covered the like encouraging young aspiring musicians or people that would want to work in the industry. On the other hand, let's say I am a 30-year-old man or girl, and now I'm COVID-19, and I always had the school guitar at home from my childhood and never learned it and never continued. What kind of tips can you give for somebody that just starting off, that we all know it? You're going to play for 3 minutes, nothing's going to come out, because it's not like in the piano. Piano, you click, you hear something. On the guitar, it's gonna take you a month before you hear anything.
Well, you should, I wouldn't say that, you know, as a
Right?
guitar teacher, you will still get sounds from the first time. Maybe it's not
Yeah.
going to be the exact sounds that you're
Yeah.
expecting, but, you know, with the right tutoring, you're going to get it quickly.
Yeah.
Um,
What kind of
think,
tips? What kind of tips you can give? And basically, if there's, because there's this misconception, I'll put a video and then I'll play. Nobody can do that. I mean, I learned the hard way that you cannot do that by yourself. You need a coach. You need somebody that's going to hold you accountable. You need a teacher. You need somebody that's going to give you the right, that's going to teach you how to learn, if you want to put it this way.
Man, you've got it all. This is the two things that you said that are very important. Actually, the first is to, and actually, it's a important point in my method and in my approach, which is to learn to learn. It's learning how to learn things.
Yeah.
And it makes a world of difference to learn how to learn. But this is also, you know, it takes time, you know. And as you said, and as actually, I like you said the coach. And this is something I've been developing, you know, throughout my teaching, is like the mentoring side to it.
Yeah.
So there is the fact that you can take lessons like regular online or face-to-face lessons, you know, but there's also the mentoring side to it. And this is a part of the teacher's job. And it is kind of different from the main teaching thing that, you know, teaching is also, it's the biggest part, of course, is where you sit in front of your student, he plays, and you know, you do your job. So, so it's an important part. And I think that when you are a beginner, total beginner, if you're 20, 15, or even 50, I mean, it still applies. Same thing applies. You need some mentoring at some point. And, you know, if you get it as soon as possible, you're going to earn some time. You're not going to waste time by doing that.
Okay.
But I think the first step, if I have to give an advice, I would give the advice I would usually give, you know, a beginner, someone who's, you know, wanting to learn the instrument. It's the first thing is to just, I help them to find, you know, what they want to do, because there's so many things you can do on guitar, you know.
Yeah.
So the first thing, and I encourage them to do everything they want to do on guitar, but you know, you have to do things, you know, one thing at a time. You can't do it all at the same time.
Indeed.
So the first thing would be is to just, you know, have a first objective, like what I want to do. I want to play this style of music. I want to play these songs. You know, I want to be technical. I want to be rhythmic. I want to, you know, I want to have fun. Whatever you want to do, just define it, and I help them define it. And once you've defined what you want to do, me as a teacher, I know exactly what you want to do. So the next step, I'm gonna help them find the planning, and plan. You know, have an overview. You know, have an overview of what you want to do. As a teacher, I give them a precise planning and the content that they, of course, they want to do. So yes, you can learn a lot of things from videos, of course. But when you're a beginner, you don't know exactly what to learn. This is the problem.
And what to look for. And what to look for.
Exactly. You don't know what to look for. And and this makes a lot of difference. If you just get a 1 hour mentoring, or however you can get it, and this is something actually I'm trying to offer as a service now online. Actually, I started this during the COVID confinement, like
nice.
4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Is to give the opportunity to someone who want to learn. And I know that people today, when they want to learn guitar, the first thing that comes to mind is that they can learn it online from free resources. And I'm not against that, you know, because I know for sure that even my students who are paying lessons, they still use online content, which is a great thing. And I encourage them to keep on using that. It's just that I help them use the better content, you know, and, you know, also have a schedule, have a program. You know,
let me put it for you this way. I think online content, the way I speak, because some people ask me also, because I hang out in a lot of music shops. Anytime I have some time, I mean, it's Christmas. Every time I see a guitar, it's Christmas for me. So whatever the kind of guitar is, I mean, yeah, I just need to be around instruments sometimes. And then some people would ask and they would say, okay, so what do you advise on this and this? And I would say, listen, let's take it this way. YouTube and everything you can find online, let's consider that as the library. Okay. So you have a lot of books.
It
right?
is.
But if you have a lot of books and it's the library, right? But or the gym, consider it as the gym or the library. A lot of resources, a lot of things you can do. You can see people doing this, this, and this, and this, right? If you're an ultimate beginner and you want to do things without hurting yourself at the gym, you would pay for the gym, but you would also ask the guy at the gym to show you some things and to tailor you a program for at least 6-7 weeks, right? So if you want to pursue a career in music, you would want to be basically the Michael Jordan in music. And so you would need a coach that would hold you accountable and that would tell you to practice things that you never thought was possible. Now, if you're somebody that just want to get in shape in music, right? Then you need that person that's going to show you basically the way. And you might not be a lifetime student for that person, but you might use a 6 to 8 to 10, 12 weeks follow-up with that person, right?
Absolutely.
And so the same analogy that I give with books, I can give you 20 books, but if I don't basically show you what to look for in those books, you might not build knowledge. You might just consume knowledge, right? You might not connect the dots between book number 1 and book number 9. You remember when we did this, you remember when we did that. Okay, and then conversations might not strike. And I think we can learn from the conversation. So what you're saying makes so much sense, in the sense of the information is there, but you still need somebody to walk you through the first steps. And it might not be for a year. I mean, I might call you and say, hey man, I need to learn this, 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 and this, and show me the way. And then maybe in 3 months, I'm already comfortable with what I know how to do. I know what are the songs that I can play, and I'm going to end up playing AC/DC for the rest of my life. I don't want to explore Phrygian mode and Phrygian mode.
You
and
don't
all
have
those
to.
things. You
You
see
don't
what I
have
mean?
to.
I want to stick to the
Absolutely,
blue.
you don't have to.
Absolutely, I want to stick to the blue scales, and then I would have moved on to something else, right? So I think what you're saying is very, very.
And what I wanted to add to this is that in the library, the books that are there, like maybe they're more verified, or, when you write a book, most of the time people that write a book, they've done studies for years and
No.
probably had they're qualified, they're specialists, and they end up writing a book. Where on YouTube, like, anyone can put out a video.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the video quality are not good, but I mean, you can
Yeah, I
get
understand.
so many different quality videos. And I know for sure from my students, even who are intermediate, that sometimes all the information might become, might get them in conflict on, should I hold the pick like that, or should I do that, or should I do that? And actually, it's a part of my approach and my method is decluttering. Like, you've got so much information that you don't know anymore what to do. So a very important thing is to, if you want to play this or learn this technique, there is defined elements that you need to attain, and there is defined ways to do that by learning this and that and practicing those. So this is a first important, very important thing, actually. And the second thing is that the analogy you gave of the gym is very, it works. But and actually, I think this is why you've got, all the mirrors in the gym, is to see if you're doing the movement right. Well, at least as a guitar teacher, I see it.
You focus on the movement.
The thing with guitar, the thing with guitar is that you might see someone teaching you exactly in a video or face-to-face how to do this. It doesn't mean that you're doing it right, and which is normal, because it takes time to develop the right, the right technique, the right movements, the right position, the right musicality, the right rhythm. There's so many aspects to it. So this is where it is important to have someone, a teacher, to give you feedback and see what you're doing and try to, and he will correct you. It doesn't have to be on a regular basis. It can be just once from time to time. Of course, when you go see your teacher, like on a weekly basis, of course your progression, your improvement is going to be faster. But I mean, this is the service I'm trying to offer today, is that maybe you want to learn online and you want to learn by yourself, but at some point, you might have an issue that you're going to be stuck at this, and just, you can go and ask for help, and you're going to get the right help at the right time, which is going to, put you on the right tracks, and, you could keep moving on.
We all know what are the nice diets to lose weight if we have to lose some weight. But if you want to get serious about your health, you go see a dietitian, right? And that's so if you want to be a little bit more, you want to be more serious a little bit about the guitar and how to learn.
And there's also something that I wanted to touch on that you kind of talked about, is about, you know, the professional, not the professional musician, but, you know, that some people which are a minority who wants to become a professional musician, you know.
Yeah.
And there is today, and especially nowadays, I mean, music has become so accessible in so many ways.
Absolutely.
The price of the instrument, the accessibility, you can buy an instrument anywhere.
Let me just stop on the price. I mean, when we used to buy a $200 guitar in the 80s or the 90s, it was a piece of crap. Let's say it this way. Now for really, man, it was a piece of crap. Like
absolutely.
$200 guitar in the 80s or in the 90s was a piece.
My first electric guitar did not even have a truss rod, you know. So at some point, the neck was this.
The neck, and now you see those guitars that are built, and like you can buy a decent $150, $200 guitar. Maybe if you want to make some adjustments for the buzzing, you have the electronics checked out by somebody. It costs you 20 or 30 bucks. To change maybe the potties or whatever, the potentiometers or the cable in it, right? Or shielding, whatever it is, like in the shop, they can do it for you.
There's a lot of improvements. There's a lot of improvements. I mean, 200 guitars with a good adjustments can feel like a $1,000.
Yeah, like you put in a $200 guitar with a 50 bucks or $100 adjustment on it, and then there you go. You have a $250, $300 guitar that is really sounding amazing, and that can actually stay with you for a long time. Like it's not like before. Like physically speaking, the guitar didn't last because the first humidity. Physically speaking, it didn't last more than 5 years. Now you can have a piece of instruments that can last 20 years, and I think that's amazing. So accessibility, 100%. Like
absolutely, it became accessible. Like the price, the quality, the recording ability, the amplifiers, amp simulators. You can, you know. I have amps on my phone, you know, I can play with my phone with earphones, and of course all the online content. So it became so accessible, and there are so many people that are willing and wanting to learn an instrument. And what I wanted to touch on is that I use, and I think it's fundamental, it's important, is to offer even the majority of these people who wants to learn an instrument, who doesn't want to become professional musician, I want to offer them the same method, the same quality, teaching quality, and the same techniques, you know. And I think, you know, they're totally deserving of getting the best, you know. And, you know, I think it helps as much, you know, professional or aspiring musician, you know, to become a professional musician, as much as amateurs or just, you know, persons who want to, you know, play guitar for fun on weekends. Having an organized method, an overview, and a precise, understanding of what they want to do and what they have to do to achieve their goals is very important. And it is as satisfying for them as for someone who wants to become a professional musician. So this is something important that I enjoy doing. I see the results with my students. Yes, and I'm trying to, you know, reach more people online, you know, who's got the same, you know, passion and desire.
Absolutely, and definitely something I wanted also to touch on as a music and instruments geek. If you want to learn how to play and you want to buy a guitar or buy an instrument, what Samir touched on in the beginning is super important. I think it's super important to know what is it that you want to play, because not all the guitars can do what you want them to do. And so I think the best idea is to hit you up with a call and say, hey Samir, I'm thinking about learning about. I'm thinking about putting me and my kids on a guitar internship. Like we're on COVID-19 mode and we have 3 months ahead, and we want to see if we can learn. So what can you suggest for a budget guitar? What can you suggest for a tempo of classes and stuff like this? And you can take it from there. I'll make sure to put those things in the links.
Sure, thanks, man. Well, actually, it is a question that I'm often asked, like online. People can ask it in comments or sometimes in platforms. You know, they do ask me like, what guitar am I supposed to buy?
Yeah.
And my answer is always like, you have to buy the guitar that suits the style of music you want to play. So if you want to play like Johnny Cash music, or I don't know, folky music, you need to get a you know, an acoustic guitar. If you want to play Van Halen, well, get an electric guitar. Especially that nowadays it's so accessible. You know, you can get Van Halen model, of course, like an entry level, which is gonna be decent, pretty decent for.
It's
nothing,
better than any $200 guitar I played, man. For 300, honestly, for $300, you can get a great guitar to start with. Like, this is really, and a great, and what I mean by a great guitar, it means that you can take that guitar and give it to a professional musician, and they can probably gig with it for 3 or 4 songs live on stage.
Sure.
They couldn't do that with the $200 guitar that we used to play with. Because
oh no,
the minute you strum, wait, I have to tune.
Gonna ruin their career.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is well, it's been good. What kind of it's been good talking to you. We're here for about an hour now. That's a very
oh wow.
I think a little bit less. Don't worry about it. It's interesting. What can we finish on? What can you say to people that are out there looking at this and saying, okay, maybe music is something I should consider in the confinement. Maybe I should do something. What are the things that you might give to the community out there to say, okay, there's this option. What is it that you would like to say?
Oh, well, first of all, they've got an option that if you've got a question, I'm available online. I answer questions on daily basis. I mean, they're very welcome. I will answer their questions.
Okay.
You know, sometimes just knowing what guitar to buy, what to do, and this is a kind of question I get asked often, like where to learn or what to do. So they can, you know, they can come and ask me questions, and this is the first thing. And the second thing, that of course, if they want to play music, I mean, whether it is, you know, because of the confinement or not, it's always a great thing to do, because it's, you know, it's fun, but it also, you know, it brings a lot of positive things, you know, to you know, to your daily life. So it's always the right time. So and it's never been, as we've been saying before, never been, you know, as accessible as today. So they just gotta go for it, and there's so much, you know, resources and stuff online. So I really encourage them to do so.
I encourage them as well. I mean, that's the most amazing thing. And if people are listening, I know Samir is not going to say this because he's too kind to say it, but I'm going to say it. If people are now struggling with their 8-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids at home, and they don't know how to occupy them, a great way to occupy them is through music. Really, I mean, they can
absolutely
on a day they can read so much books, they can watch TV, they can play video games, but I put in an hour or 2 of music, because you could be
actually I'm gonna confirm what you say, and it's so true what you say, that I realized that I've got like 4 students who are under 18. Okay,
there you go.
And what I realized is that during this confinement, they've been taking more online lessons with me than adults. Yeah. And also more lessons than they usually do, you know, in normal time. Like currently in France, it's vacation, and usually my youngest students, they don't do guitar during vacation, and they do, you know, because they've got the time, you know, they're practicing more. So what you're saying is so true.
Yeah. So just put your kids in front of a guitar teacher on Skype or whatever platform they use. Samir, we'll touch on it. You can contact Samir in the comments and just tag him, and I'll tag him everywhere, and you'll find him. And put just an instrument for a month. There's nothing to lose. Your kid is not gonna die of an overdose like a rock star. They're just. I'm just appealing to the parents that, I mean, it's healthier to learn an instrument and to learn about the history of the instrument. They might not even learn how to play, but to know how a guitar is constructed, what strings are, what the nut are, what
it is a healthy discipline, you know, to see how, you know, you put the effort and you get these amazing results. It's a life teaching lesson, you know. It teaches you so many things, and you know, it makes you believe that if you put the right effort, and you get amazing results. And you know, this applies to everything in life. So
absolutely. So I'm really hoping that everybody's gonna go put their kids in front of a Skype session with a.
I'm working hard on it.
Because
to make this, you know, accessible, the method, I'm just trying, you know, to make it accessible to a maximum of people, you know, by being more online. you know, by making it available and also sustainable as a business model.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've got you know, same
so
hopes.
I think it's good. I think it's a healthy habit to build, and I think all of us are trying now to build new habits, and including a little bit of music in your habits. I think it's something that everybody should consider, at least the same way you consider it. Might not be a profession, it could be just a hobby, but the same way you watch TV or the same way you read books, I think learning about an instrument or learning about the history of music or learning about your favorite band or learning, I mean, you know, at the early days, I had a guy who came and told me, listen, there's a song by Eric Clapton called Wonderful Tonight. I just need you to teach me the chords because I want to play it on my brother's wedding. And we ended up for 8 weeks working on Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton, and he doesn't know anything about music, anything about guitars. He only knows how to play this song, and he never touched the guitar again. Right.
Okay, well, it's amazing.
So, but he came with this, and he said, "Okay, I want to learn this," and we did, and it was amazing. And I think the video is still available on his page from his brother's wedding, and it was
okay. Check it out
for him. So everybody can connect with the instrument. I think. Samir, thank you for being with us. It's been
Thanks for having me, Toufic.
You're welcome. And I'll make sure to include all the links. If you want to get in touch with Samir, you know where to find him on his YouTube channel. I think he will answer any comments, as he said. So comment, and blow his computer with questions. I'm pretty sure he'll be happy about it.
You're welcome.
Okay.